Number 1.
This happened to me about a month and a half ago. For some context, I enjoy working out 4 to 5 times a week. I go to a CrossFit gym that is relatively small, so the warm-up rounds are usually done outside. This gym is near a street that's surrounded by trees at both sides, and the fact that the road stretches for about a mile, which is a great place for the gym goers to run on, and is, in fact, encouraged on some days. I'm also a short female, and I don't really look fit since I'm on the chubby side. This, however, always gave me a false sense of security since in my head, I didn't look like the traditional standard of beauty. Therefore, I wouldn't be a focal point for any creeps. Clearly, I was wrong. I go to the gym this morning. When I read the routine on the board, the warm-up said we had to go down the previously mentioned road. It was a pretty warm and sunny day, so I decided to go and do it. It wasn't my first time I went alone down that road, and my biggest worry so far was getting caught up in the rain, which wasn't a concern on that particular morning. I grabbed my phone and my headphones to listen to some music on my warm-up jog, as per usual, and immediately went out of the gym to begin the small walk between the gym building and the beginning of the road. Halfway there, this car passes by me and slows down, driving at the speed I was walking. He honks his horn several times to get my attention, and I turned to look thinking he needed directions or something. But when I looked, he gave me this wide, unsettling grin, waved at me, and drove off. At that moment, I didn't think anything of it, since, as a female, I do get the occasional honk or the inappropriate comment about my bounce and things like that when I'm outside warming up. So I simply shrugged it off, turned up the volume of my music, and continued heading towards the intersection that connects to the road. What started to give me creepy vibes was that as I was walking to said intersection, I noticed the car waiting at the red light. As soon as the light turned green, the car did a U-turn and headed back towards my direction. Once more, slowing down his speed, looks at me with a creepy grin, eyeing me up and down and making me feel exposed. I felt my heart begin to race, but I tried to ignore it since he was going in the opposite direction as me now. And besides, it was in the middle of the day where other cars were passing by, so he wouldn't try anything else. At least that's what I tried to convince myself of. By this time, I had reached the intersection, so I turned onto the road and began to jog alongside it. I was a little concerned by this dude literally going out of his way to look at me, but I tried to concentrate on keeping my pace and breathing at a steady rate, using my music to keep distracted too. Not 2 minutes had passed when I see, on the opposite side of the road, the same car slowing down beside me again. This meant that he had made another U-turn somewhere, took the light at the intersection again, and turned to the same direction I was jogging towards. The man driving looked right at me with that stupid grin. He said some words to me that I didn't really catch since I had my volume pretty high, before he speeds off once more. Alright, at this point I'm starting to freak out because he has gone out of his way twice. I am hyper aware of my heartbeat as I feel a wave of panic begin to wash over me. I suddenly realized that I'm just starting my jog down this road, where there are no buildings around, no place for me to hide, and I am completely alone. Right up the hill of the road, there's another intersection that can't be seen from where I currently am. But something was telling me that this dude was going to make yet another U-turn and make a pass at me again. I see another jogger a little up ahead, and since I really want to do this workout, I decide to catch up to him. In my head, I figured that he must be one of the gym goers too if he was running up this road, so maybe I could jog with him and have some company. I pick up my pace to get to him faster. Eventually I do, but I don't recognize him. Remember, my gym is rather small, so faces get pretty familiar rather quickly. Still, I hoped he was maybe a new member, or just one of the few I hadn't yet met. I just wanted an excuse to not be alone, so I asked him if by any chance he goes to the gym down the road, not wanting to be too specific in case he ended up also being a creep. But he tells me no. Shit. I thank him anyway and decide to bolt back to the gym. There is no way I am running up this lonely street by myself with some stranger following me in his car. God knows what his intentions were with me, but considering his expression, I wasn't willing to take the risk and find out. As I'm heading down the road on my way back, the car passes me yet again, just as I had expected. He had gotten to the second intersection and made a third U-turn, if you're counting. Still that creepy grin on his lips, still slowing down his speed to drive at my pace, his eyes looking at me as if I was absolutely naked in front of him. He was closer to me now, and I could see through his window that while his left hand was on the wheel, his right hand was on his lap, gripping something in it. I quickly looked away, fearing that what I thought I saw was what I actually saw. I did not want to confirm my suspicions, but I was clearly shaken. My jog turned into running when he speeds off again. I am literally at the verge of a panic attack, only focusing on how the hell I'm going to reach the gym safely. Sure, it wasn't that far away, but I obviously could not outrun a car. I turn off my music and call my best friend on the phone. I don't know why I did that since she's overseas studying, and there was no way for her to help me. I should have called the police instead, but my panic-ridden brain was only thinking about getting back safe and having someone keep me company, even if only on the phone in the meantime. While I waited for her to pick up the phone, I noticed the first intersection up ahead, but to my horror, the car was on the very left lane waiting for the light to turn green. Finally, my friend picks up the phone, and hearing her voice helps alleviate some of the panic. My eyes were trying to focus on both the car and where I was stepping as I ran. I needed to be careful, of course. And then the light turned green. The car began to move, and yes, did a fourth U-turn. I'm trying my hardest to explain the situation to my best friend with breathless, panicky words, when I see that man pass me again with those eyes, and that grin that sends chills down my spine every time I think about it. Luckily, I was nearing the intersection, and I could already see my gym about 400 meters away. My best friend kept telling me to breathe and to try and calm down. She knew I couldn't get anxious then. I needed to be safe first. 200 more meters. I'm searching around to see if I could spot the car again. I can only hear my ragged breath, my heart, and my friend's voice trying to soothe me. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. 50 more meters. I'm so close that the last burst of adrenaline makes me run even faster. I finally reach the building and climb up the steps to the second floor, where the gym is, and burst through the doors. Finally, I made it. I was safe. My body begins to relax as soon as I enter the familiar, comforting space. My adrenaline was crashing fast, leaving room for anxiety to settle in. I tell my friend goodbye since I wanted to tell my coach about the situation and quickly hang up the phone. Before I could find my coach, however, I fell into a full-blown panic attack. I started to hyperventilate. My body was shaking so badly that I collapsed into a ball on the floor and sobbed uncontrollably, not caring that everyone was watching me. All I could do was try to reassure myself that I was now safe and that everything would be alright. But I'm never going down that road alone again.
Number 2.
I know that this encounter is a lot less traumatizing and terrifying than some other ones that I've read. My encounter with this deranged person is more on the weird / kinda creepy spectrum of this subreddit. I haven't encountered too many strange things in my life, which I guess is why I remember this event so clearly. Which, looking back, I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing that I remember such an event so clearly. My family lived in a medium-sized house in a farm urban kind of area. We weren't farmers though, but we rented land on a farm that the local government owned. Crime was very rare in our part of Illinois, but it wasn't unheard of. If there was a crime that was reported on, it was usually larceny or some failed attempt of a burglary by some amateurs. I was in the 8th grade while this happened, so around 13 to 14ish. I was sitting in the passenger seat right next to my mom, and we were stuck in traffic in a clogged lane. There were 2 cars in front of our SUV. There were about 2 cars in front of us, and the driver in car 1 starts swerving between the lanes, driving really recklessly. Eventually, the traffic catches up, and we're stuck at the traffic light. After almost an eternity of waiting at the red signal, the signal switches green, and the traffic in our lane is still stuck. The driver in car 1 doesn't budge, sits there for about 30 seconds, before getting honked at by a line of angry cars. I have no idea what this lady was going to try to do, but she legit got out of her car and went from car 2 all the way to car 5. We were about car 3 in the situation, and starts banging really hard at each of the windows and tries to open the locked doors. I remember just staring in horror while my mom quickly locked the doors and windows. She then came to our car and was especially more rowdy with our car. She was throwing her elbow at our SUV window and rattled really hard with the car door. The door eventually broke down a few days after the incident, and we had to get it replaced. Eventually, she gave up and resorted to attacking us with foul profanity and words that no 8th grader needed to hear. To this day, I still can't fathom the coincidence, but some dude a few cars behind car 5 starts running towards her and shoves her back into her car. I don't remember the dialogue exactly, but I could only pick out that the lady was screaming "Dad" over and over to this man. She gets back and bolts her car at least 100 miles an hour, continuing her swerving madness. While she's going back to her car, I could see her clearly smiling and winking back at me, which just triggered all my alarms. Luckily, that was the last that I saw of her, and I can't imagine what she would have done if she had broken our doors and windows completely. The strange thing is, when she was attempting to break our windows, she had ripped her clothes and a medical wristband which had the name of a local mental hospital that was about a mile or 2 from our house.
Number 3.
My story takes place 19 years ago. I'm a female, and I was 16 at the time. I'm 5'7". I was about 130 pounds, and I like to think that I'm strong, but I couldn't take on 2 young men. So, it begins with my mother and stepfather going away on vacation and leaving my 17-year-old sister and I home alone. They did this quite often. My parents were not winning any parenting awards. My sister and I didn't get along either. She was a nasty piece of work. Luckily, she decided to go stay at a friend's house while my parents were away. I was nervous about being alone, so I had my boyfriend staying with me. He was a pugnacious dickhead, but I'm glad he was there. One night, Brett and I were at my house, and we had just started messing around when I heard a really loud knock at the door. My room was in the basement, but there was a landing area between the stairs. You know how some staircases are broken up, and there's a turnaround area? That's the landing. There was a window that I could see the stairs that led up to the alcove of our front porch. I could see two people standing there, and just as I was peeking out to see them better, one of them saw me. I remember feeling the breath sucked out of my chest. There were two young men standing on my porch. It was almost midnight, and I had no idea who the hell they were. The guy that saw me let his friend know, and they were both looking in the window and asked me to come to the door. My boyfriend had gone upstairs to open the door, and I remember freaking out because I told him not to. He was one of those guys that thought that he was Mr. Tough Guy and believed he could fight anyone. He was telling the guys to leave just as I joined them at the door. They saw me and called me by my name and asked me to let them in. Brett told them to fuck off. One guy, I think his name was Wes or Les, something like that, said, "Come outside. We just want to talk to you." To my boyfriend. I said, "No, thanks, we're going to bed," and shut the door. I was really confused and getting very frightened. They stood at my doorstep for a few minutes, then started knocking again. Wes or Les explained to me through the door that he was my sister's friend and that she told him that I was alone at home and that they should come by. I knew my sister and I believed them. That did not, however, make me stupid. I told them to leave. They started kicking the door. It was shaking, and I seriously feared that it would not hold up. I was so scared that I ran into the kitchen to call the police. I was assured that they would be there very soon and to lock the doors and stay on the phone. Meanwhile, Brett was still yelling at them, which only served to piss off these guys even more. I begged him to shut up, but he wouldn't listen to me. I was locking all the doors and windows upstairs. Brett went down to check the doors. Down in the basement, there was a huge mud area, and it had a thick wooden door made of 2x4 planks, kind of like a barn door. The door had a big old lock on it, some spring-loaded turnbolt, and also had a plank to set across it, like a barricade. One of the guys was pounding on this door, and Brett heard him tell the other guy to go try the back door. This stupid door was one of those 1960s things that had a happy little square window, right at face level, with a little curtain across it. I was at this door, trying to jam a chair under the flimsy knob when I looked up and saw the unnamed guy just looking at me. I screamed, and the dispatcher asked me if I was okay. I barely squeaked out that one of the guys was looking right at me through the window. He was older than me, probably 20. He was tall and looked scary as hell. His dark eyes were drilling into me. He wore this creepy, placid smile on his face. I had never seen this man before, but he knew my name. He tapped on the window with one finger, never breaking eye contact, and said, "Becky, let me in." I couldn't breathe. The knob was rattling as he was messing with it. He said again, "Let me in. Let me in, Becky. I just want to see if you're okay. I just want to talk." He stared at me. I didn't say anything. I was just 3 feet from him, with my back pressed to the fridge, when he suddenly started beating on the door and screamed, "Let me the fuck in this house. If I have to break in, I will kill both of you. So just open the fucking door." He looked maniacal. Then there was a loud knock at the front door, and the man went silent. He gave me the most hateful sneer I had ever seen. I heard shouting, and he ran down the back stairs and into the woods along the back of my yard. Brett had gone to the door. It was the cops. There were 2 female officers at the front door, and one was just starting to raise her voice asking where I was when I came to the door. I was so relieved. I started sobbing. I told them they had run away through the woods. Luckily, the woods were not deep. They actually ran along the bank of a large river, and there was a bridge just up from where the woods met the road. One of the officers ran around the back, while one stayed to get my description and take my statement. Officer number 1 came back and spoke to officer number 2, said she saw them running across the bridge. They both left in a hurry, hopped in a cruiser, and sped off. I was still crying and shaking, but I was absolutely furious at Brett for riling them up. I went to make myself some tea, thinking of all the ways I could kill my sister when she got home. I had so much anger, fear, and adrenaline pumping through me that I could have ripped her to shreds at that moment. 20 minutes later, the cruiser came back. There were 2 guys sitting in the back seat, and the officers wanted me to confirm that it was the right guys. I looked through the window and saw them. They still looked terrifying to me. They were in cuffs and could not get to me, but I would not get close to them. Neither would look at me. I confirmed it was them, and we spoke a bit. I told the cops about my sister, suggesting that these 2 men come and see me. Officer 2 kind of mumbled, "What a bitch." I had to agree. I pressed charges for attempted forcible entry, property damage. They had broken a window in the living room, trespassing, disorderly conduct, and attempted assault. Initially, they both pled not guilty, but later admitted to some of the charges. They both got 18 months in jail and were forbidden to contact me or my boyfriend ever again, and to at least be 500 meters from me at all times. I never heard from them again. I confronted my sister about it, and of course, she denied it, then laughed about it, laughed at me. She was an awful person. I have no idea what their true intentions were, as they maintained that they were just there to talk to me. I am thankful that I didn't have to find out. So, 2 strange guys who just wanted to talk to me at midnight. Let's not meet. What's up guys, Psychotic Maniac here. I'm sorry if you heard some of these stories before. I've had these stories for quite a while, and I didn't want to leave you guys without a video while I worked on some upcoming projects for this channel. One of these projects is one of my favorite things to do, explore abandoned places. I want to start a series in which I go and explore abandoned places and record it on video, then upload said video on this channel. I will probably do one of these urban exploration videos once a month. Currently, I am looking for places to explore, so if you have a suggestion for a place, leave it in the comments. I want to know what you guys think about this. Would you guys like me to do some urban exploration and upload it here? Let me know in the comments. The Psycho Squad is around 900 strong, and I want to thank each and every single one of you for sticking around and being patient with my uploads. I want to prepare for the 1000 subscribers milestone. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to do. I might even do a face reveal, but who knows. I'm currently looking to fresh things up a bit on this channel, like my logo, my banner, etc. So if you want to submit some fan art or a design for a new logo for this channel, you can submit it to my email or my social media, which is in the description. Thanks for watching, be safe, and remember, everyone is a tad bit insane.